Hi, come on in. Thank you for dropping by. I appreciate it. Tonight, I'm going to introduce you to a friend of mine, someone who is also one of Judy's cousins. She has a lot of cousins. His name is Mark Carter. He's a chaplain down in Appalachia. He has a lot of stories of miracles that he experienced most of it during his time in the coal mines. He was a coal miner. He owned one for a while, and he's got all kinds of stories to tell. He's got 20 miracles, and I'm going to be publishing them in groups of 5. Mark is truly a man of God, one of the few that I have met. And that's why I'm very happy to publish his miracles. He has a ministry down in Appalachia. He feeds the people who just don't have the money to buy food. And unfortunately, that is a large number of people down in Appalachia. Couple of years ago, he provided 23,000 meals for people. Now he has contributors who make it possible for him to do it. Judy and I are one of those contributors. And over the time I've gotten to know him, he does not take one penny out for himself. I've asked him, please take some money for yourself. No, he won't do it. He apologized because he had to put some gas in his car or in his truck one time. You won't find many ministers like that. He's a fine man. I'm going to publish his address and everything. Should you want to contribute, he has tax exemption through the IRS. His ministry name is Message from the Mountains. And on the slides following, you will see his address. And I hope that you will avail yourselves of this opportunity to bless a ministry and people who really need it. Now, with all of that said, let's listen to what Mark had to say. Thank you.
Money laundering. Debbie and I had just bought our house. Boy, was the things hard. We even had to borrow the down payment. It was everything to just keep up. I was at work, and as always, Debbie was home doing laundry. We had been talking that we needed $75 to make the house payment. Wow, where were we going to get that much cash in such short of period of time? I came home and Debbie met me and said, come here and look in the laundry room. To amazement, over the washing machine on the line, she had $75 drying. And believe me, when you don't have any money, you can't misplace $75. She has always told me not to worry, that God will provide, and He has. Later on, when we were getting on our feet and doing much better, the washing machine broke down, and it cost $75 to fix. But that was okay with me. My years in the mines, obeying God's voice. It was in the mid-1980s, and I was working in a small mines in eastern Kentucky as a scoop operator. In those days, there were a lot of mining using scoops to haul coal inside the mines. The mine coal height was about 42 inches. I had been loading coal and taking it to the feeder where it was loaded onto a belt conveyor to be taken outside of the mine. This day, like every other day, it was work as usual. About 2 hours before the end of the shift, I could hear a whining from the hydraulic pump. This is typical when the hydraulic oil is getting low. I began to make my way to the oil supply. I parked my scoop in a place to give the most height so that I could put oil in the scoop. As I was standing with my body over the top of the scoop, my feet were under the side of the scoop and down in a depression in the floor of the mine with the edge of the rock at my heels. I had just put about a half of a 5-gallon can of oil into the scoop when God spoke to me in a commanding voice telling me to step backwards. Immediately I stepped backwards. As my last foot was coming out of the depression by the edge of the rock of the mine floor, another scoop came around the corner and hit my scoop, pushing the edge of the bottom of the scoop into the edge of the rock of the depression, which if I had not obeyed his voice, I would have lost both of my feet that day. Only by the grace of God speaking to me and my obedience to his voice, which was so commanding, how could I not obey? I can stand today because God blessed me to still have feet to stand upon, which I plant upon the rock of salvation, Jesus Christ. The parsley flakes. It begun at this time of year, November. The air had a snap to it. It had been so hot that year. Debbie and I had just gotten married in August, and this was going to be our first Thanksgiving as husband and wife. We had just got word that her mother and father, sister, and her husband was coming in to spend it with us. Debbie was so excited. Being away from home, she had missed them so much. Debbie had gone to the Piggly Wiggly to get things for Thanksgiving dinner. She wanted everything to turn out just right. Among all the things she had gotten was a bottle of parsley flakes. There were a lot of first-time buyers since it was our first Thanksgiving, and we hadn't bought in any kind of these things before. That was in 77 that she got that bottle of parsley flakes, and as you can see in the picture to the right, this is the same bottle of parsley flakes that she got in 1977, and we are still using them to this day. We use them all the time, and they have never ran out. The picture was taken just this spring for a testimony at church, how God was showing Debbie and I that his blessing is never ending. Road to the top of the mountain. Me and Debbie had just got married that August, and the winter snows had come in that winter. The light from the deep new snow showed us the way as we walked the winding road up Taylor Fork. This was the first snow of our new lives together. Debbie and I was just enjoying the smell of the fresh snow and watching our little dog Buddy run mostly under the deep snow. When we had gone as far as we could to the end of the hollow, without me knowing, Debbie said to herself that one day she would like to own the land at the end of the road. 30 years later, the land came up for sale. And at the same time, without a word being said, Debbie's dad called and says he wanted to go ahead and give her her inheritance. To our surprise, what she was given was the very amount that they were asking for the land. The deal was made, and now Debbie owns the land she had desired. Without saying a word, even to me, God heard her heart. The Bible says in Psalms 34:4, "Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thy heart." There was a place on top of the mountain that as a teenager I would sit and look out over the mountain and wonder how God made things. I would say someday I would love to have a cabin up here. Now that we own the land, that very spot, but now how would I get there? If only I had a road up there. They were some old logging roads, but they were washed out in some places and very rough. The fellows that brought me the load of coal stopped by to shoot the bull. I asked them if they were going to come and put a road to the top of the mountain. They replied, like they would let us do that. We talked a little longer, and they had to go. The next morning, they pulled up into my driveway and began to beep their horn. I went out to see what they were into, and again they said, "Who do you know?" And the same answer I told them, the man upstairs. They began to tell me how they went back to the office and the boss told them to come and to see me about putting a road to the top of the mountain so that he could move equipment to do work over in the next hollow. They came and done the work putting the road up to the mountain at no charge to me. Now I asked myself if I only had some lumber to build a cabin. A few days later, I was going down the road and the lady that lived next door stopped me and asked me if I knew anyone that would be interested in taking down her barn for the lumber. I didn't know if I could do it or not. I told her I would like to have it, but it would be a slow pace of taking it down because I could only work on it 2 or 3 hours a day. She said that would be fine. Needless to say, but I have a cabin in the spot on top of the mountain. No one can ever tell me God didn't have his hand in all this that was done. The fellow that brought the coal had seen to the road and always asked me, "Who do you know?" Well, he finally gave his life to Jesus Christ. I hope all this played in a part in showing him how God can work. It did for me. The time I have spent at the cabin was taking me to such a deeper understanding of who God is. I was sitting on the porch of the cabin one day, telling God how grateful I was for the place to come and sit and talk to him. This is when he said to me, "That's good, but the work is down there." Needless to say, I have not got to go spend time there like I like to. This is where I came off the mountain and went to Jacobsville Mission and have been there almost 6 years. The things God have shown me at that place on top of the mountain has given me testimonies that most can't understand, or for the most part think I am crazy. But I know that I know where it has come from. When God shows you the truth, it will always, without a doubt, be confirmed. With all this said, the most important thing is the testimony that this has given me. The land, the road, the cabin is only the icing on the cake. Rockfall. My nephew and I was doing some mine maintenance one weekend. As we traveled down the roadway in the mine, I was looking to check the roof for any sign of the danger of a fall. As we was working our way back out of the mine, I was checking the roof very closely because the mine was bad for roof falls. We began to come through a dip in the mine, so I was on my guard. Dips were known for falls. The roof looked good, very good in this spot. After we came out of the dip, we pulled to the side to work when we heard a boom boom. And then the roof fell in that very spot where we were at just a few seconds earlier. 4 feet of rock, 18 foot wide and 60 foot long of rock had fell. Thank you again, God, for holding the roof up for us to come through and get to safety. Just to think how many times God has gotten me to safety in the mine and at home or on the highway. Thank and give praise to the Lord God Almighty. Ronnie's Keys. It had been a very trying time for a friend of mine. Ronnie and I had prayed one night after church that God would give him confidence to overcome the things in his life. Little did we know that God, in all his wisdom, had already planned putting things in motion. A week later, Ronnie was shot in the back with a .357 Magnum. The doctors would not give a percentage if he would make it or not, but by the grace of God, Ronnie made a speedy recovery. After a few weeks in rehab, I went to pick him up to take him to his car that he was living in at the time. It was getting late and the sun was going down. We found the battery dead in the car, so we had to get a booster cables to jump the car to start it. In all the chaos, both sets of keys Ronnie had was in the car when the door shut and was locked. By this time I was really feeling bad, Ronnie was tired, and now here we are, both sets of keys locked up inside the car. Ronnie went in the house to see what he could find. As he left, I was praying, asking God to help because we both was not up for all this. As it was getting dark out of the twilight came Ronnie, walking with an old key from some old car he had some years ago. Thinking to myself, does he think that key is going to work? Yeah, right. He walked to the door and inserted the key and turned it, and there was a click and the door unlocked. We both just looked up at each other, and the look on our faces would have been worth catching on film. I just could not believe that key worked on the car. The key would not work on any other door of the car, the trunk, glove box, or the other door. I would love for someone to give me the odds of that key working on this car. I know that God had a hand in this because the Word tells us, you have not because you ask not. We were in need, and we were not up to this. We give God thanks because we know it was God who opened the door.